From Showtime and A24.
What do you love most about Whitney?
Comes a new series unlike any other.
Well, where do I even start?
Academy Award winner Emma Stone.
I like how you fight for us.
Nathan Fielder.
Money doesn't really matter when it's about doing the right thing.
And Benny Safdie.
You guys are strong, right? At the end of the day, you're going to survive, right?
Next question.
New episodes of The Curse, streaming now on Paramount Plus, only with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan.
With Kroger brand products from Baker's, you can make all your favorite things this holiday season. Because Kroger brand's proven quality products come at exceptionally low prices. And with a money-back quality guarantee, every dish is sure to be a favorite.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Whether you shop delivery, pickup, or in-store, Kroger brand has all your favorite things. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
You're finally at that hot new spot, the one your friends keep raving about, sitting across from your date. It's going...
Another round?
Really well. And that dish you've been dying to try, oh, it's headed your way. You can smell it, hear it sizzling fresh off that skillet as it comes closer, closer, and served. Go ahead, enjoy. After your phone sneaks a bite first. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, the amazing Jason Horton talks all about haunted Los Angeles.
Los Angeles is such a amazing place, but it has such a dark history and can have such a dark energy. Just the inherent despair and a lot of rejection. A lot of people come here and they bare their souls and they get crushed. And I feel like a lot of that, when it happens over the years in a relatively short amount of time, you can't help but find some crime and some haunts and some inherent darkness. It's really hard to avoid those things.
Today on the show, Jason Horton from Ghost Town and Strange Year podcast talks all about haunted Los Angeles. Stay close.
Hi, my name is Jason Horton, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week, which was a best of. And Jason, you've done so many shows and so many formats. Have you done best ofs, as it were?
I think I have done a retrospective, but then I found it hard to kind of figure out what is the best. I know that what's the best according to me, but I don't know what is actually the best. But I have talked about the 5 most listened to episodes of the year, so I kind of let that, kind of the audience kind of pick that. I guess if the listens is what counts.
No, I hear what you're saying. Jackie Cation does that same thing with Dork Forest. She'll pick the shows that were listened to the most. But when I do a best of, I choose my favorite stories. And last year, it was really hard to choose because I've heard some amazing stories. But what I went with was one from Kevin Nealon talking about going to a strip club in Point Barrow, Alaska. I mean, you can't lose. And then one from Allie Gertz, who is a musician and a writer. And she talks about the car accident that changed her life, which truly left me just like I couldn't even breathe. It's so unbelievable.
And she's already she's already so interesting. So
Yeah.
it's just that her just a very interesting person. And I imagine she has so many interesting stories. But I got to check that one out. I didn't know because I've had her on a podcast previously too, and she's great.
Yeah,
so
she's a great talent. She really is. Well, this story about her car accident, I mean, and the tone of her voice is very underrated. But when you're hearing what she says, it's like, holy shit, I did not know that. So it's very interesting. Go back and listen to that. Oh, and then one more story, which was from comedian Joe Menente. And if the story makes you pee your pants, Jason, it's a good indication that it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just picked that episode last year, the one that made me pee my pants. And that's on the show. Joe Menente talking about teaching special education. Doesn't sound that funny, but believe you me, get ready to laugh. So go back, you guys, listen to the best of 2020 last week, but not today, because today I'm here with another really interesting person, writer, talent, comedian, videographer. You kind of do it all. Jason Horton. Jason, you have had so many YouTube shows, YouTube downloads, different, I don't know how to say it, like different formats of shows. Does your mind just race 1,000 miles an hour, and do you sleep?
I think what I'm good at is not necessarily the content, but I'm really good at is pivoting if I need to, and kind of figuring that out quickly when, when I'm doing something and just say it's not working, or it just for some reason doesn't resonate anymore. I'm pretty good at pivoting and finding something new and still carrying over some of the old stuff, for better or for worse. So I think that's kind of what I've been doing over the last 11 years, especially when it comes to things like YouTube and comedy, and just putting out stuff in general.
So are you saying that you don't get like personally attached to a project and you're able to just like cut it out? I mean, how do you stop?
I kind of, I don't try to fight the changes, like just say in YouTube where sketch comedy wasn't really worth it. There's just so much you put into it, and YouTube didn't really seem to warm to it anymore for whatever reason. They just got into other things like unboxing videos or vlogging, or families vlogging and such. And sketch comedy, it's so expensive to produce in comparison to just running around. Not to say they're not putting a lot of work into what they're doing as well. And I really let like those numbers and like the practicality of it dictate things. And it is a huge bummer because then I don't have that outlet. But then I started doing stand-up comedy to kind of like, kind of offset that, and auditioning and stuff. So I try not to get too attached, but I do look back. Like I'll look back and be like, wow, 2010 to 2015, we're so great. So I just get nostalgic over it.
Yeah, that is so interesting. You were getting millions of hits on, it was like an online dating show. You were the guy and you were basically just going on different dates. So, but they were written out, they were sketches. What was the show called? I'm sorry.
Oh, I mean, I've done so many, but I was part of a sketch group called Totally Sketch. At one point, we did so much relationship stuff, but also pop culture things and kind of slice of life type things. And then I was doing it on my own channel, which I've just rebranded again. I was just looking at the numbers. 'Cause I'm a big analytics person because I love the art. So I rebranded my YouTube channel and was just looking back, and I've actually unlisted a lot of those videos because they really don't represent me now that much, and they're not monetized because they're a little bit like saucy, sexy or whatever. So yeah, it's just a constant change, but you still get still getting a lot of traffic in general, just the way that ecosystem works.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And so what did you rebrand? In other words, in your head, did you see different colors, or what are you talking about?
Absolutely. I'm really good at like kind of seeing like how I could change something very, very quickly and move very fast. So I had a YouTube channel that was, doing like it was wasn't very active, and YouTube doesn't really respond. Just like if you didn't put out episodes of Storyworthy for like 3 months, you'd probably have a drop off in listeners, and it would be hard to get back to that. Well, I did that with YouTube, and that was like well over a year or 2 years or something like that. And I rebranded it more towards like my podcast Ghost Town and Strange Year and like the book and the things that I'm interested in. And it's still my name, but what I did was I just changed the look of it, changed the face of it, and I saw what that looked like. And then I put out content that was a little bit of me, the person you may have seen in the other videos, but it's also talking about the episodes of the podcast. So there's like these produced video versions of the podcast with photo assets and video assets, and that started in September. And this is boring, but from getting negative 300 subscribers a month, now I'm getting plus 1,200 subscribers a month. But that took a lot of work and a lot of energy.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I mean, all of this is so interesting to me because, of course, I've got like 5 different shows, but I kind of keep it under the same umbrella and it's all the same kind of content. Now you've moved, as we talked about, from relationships to sketch comedy and stand-up comedy. Now you're kind of like a true crime guy, right?
I'd say that's a big part of it, obviously, because it's very, very popular and very compelling. I'd say because my co-host Rebecca, she's like, a big true crime person and a big haunted person, where I'm like a big weird history person and filming locations and then odd stuff that has happened in cities and things that happened in various places, and especially Los Angeles, 'cause that's where we are. So it's very very enthusiastic to talk about. But I love like a weird history, a weird random history, and that's kind of a little bit of paranormal. So we kind of put all that together, and then made Ghost Town, and then all the other things that came from it.
Right. And that's why you bring forth the topic today. I love haunted Los Angeles. Is that the topic?
Yeah. I mean, it's LA, and I'll say why. And I've kind of been saying this a lot. Why Los Angeles is so kind of rife with haunts and inherent darkness. It's because it's a very new, compared to the rest of the United States and of course the rest of the world. It's a very young city, and a lot has happened in a very short amount of time. And there is a lot of inherent despair, rejection, bitterness, sadness, because you come and you kind of come here, bare your soul, you put it all on the line, and there's just, I mean, it's just nonstop rejection for a lot of people over a long period of relatively short period of time. But you put that all together, it's kind of like a pressure cooker, and it's not hard to see why so much desperation and things like crime and haunts have happened in the city.
Yeah, it is so interesting. And also, it's the people that it happens to, because people come to Los Angeles from all over the world for this particular industry. It's the largest industry for entertainment in the world. So you
Yeah.
get these really artistic, eclectic people coming here to begin with, and they often don't have, I don't know, their own families necessarily here. They're often on their own and they're forming families here. They're getting to know people here. Maybe they're getting to know strangers. Also, there's something about the weather. People are always outside. There's a lot here in Los Angeles, and that's why I am in love with so many of your shows. Ghost Town has been amazing, and that is now in the top 200 of history podcasts on Apple Podcasts, right?
Yeah, I think today it's like, and I know it's not really important, but I look at it, I think today it's 75, but it's been pretty much in the top 200 for at least almost the last year. And then it was in the top of true crime. And then we started doing a little more history stuff. So I thought that was just a better representation of it. When we first started, we were I remember there's a screenshot. I think we're right near we're in the top of all podcasts, where I think below Joe Rogan and above My Favorite Murder, maybe, which
Wow.
is very, very, it was a very short window, but it got us a lot of attention very, very quickly when we didn't even know who we were at that point. So it was a very kind of strange thing, but it got us a lot of attention in meetings, and things kind of came of it because of that. But I mean, that was lightning in a bottle for a short amount of time.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. And now you're doing this one that I find really fun called Strange Year. And it's such a short podcast. I mean, goddamn, why didn't I think of that? I mean, it's so smart. You pick a year, any year, it could be 1896 or 1974 or 2016, any year, and you just do a quick 3-minute synopsis of what happened that year that was strange.
Yeah. And strange, according to me.
So if you would listen to 1997, you would start it with, this was the year that Lady Diana died. I mean, that is like so juicy. And so tell me about how you came to this idea. It's so smart. And of course, you listen to them in rapid succession because they're all 3 minutes long.
So I'll tell you how I came up with the idea of Strange Year. Besides being interested in it, I was working on the movie Tenet. In the movie Tenet, with the Christopher Nolan movie. Christopher Nolan, right? I don't know. I worked on this movie that was one of the last things to come out in theaters. And I was working nights on it. I was doing like some photo doubling and like working with some of the stunt people and stuff. And it was explosions and things happening, and I was doing some photo doubling and working with some of the stunt people on some things. And I was just had a lot of downtime, and I'm sitting around and like things are kind of blowing up around me. And for some reason I was like, why don't I do a strange history podcast? That's like literally how it happened. In my mind, it came up with Strange Year. I had the format within minutes. I had a lot of that, and it's changed since I started. I would have like 5 things that happened, and I was like, you know what? Let me just make it shorter. And I think because I made it shorter, I made it where I could keep doing it every week. 'Cause I think if I made it more, which is great to have more, I don't think with the doing 2 episodes a week of Ghost Town and all the other things, I would be able to sustain it. And I was like, I'd rather have it be consistent and less. So I just the format it just slowly got to a shorter and shorter podcast. But I call it kind of the Wikipedia's Wikipedia,
Yeah.
even though I for 2 or 3 minutes I put so much work into scripting it because there's no wasted words. There's no, anecdotal things. And, I'll say, hey, here's a couple of things that happened that year. But this is something that's really, really strange that happened that year. And strange is just strange to me. Some people might be like, that's not the weirdest thing that happened that year. And I was like, you know what? It just
Shut
is
the
what
hell
it
up.
is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And I love connecting years to things. Like when I think of a year and I think of 1997, I think, oh, I was in Europe for a bit in 1997. So I just make those connections really quick. And I think a lot of other people do too. So I kind of was like, I would love to listen to something like this. Maybe not with hearing this voice that you're hearing right now. Maybe somebody else more pleasant to listen to. But I was like, I would really like a podcast like this. So I was like, let me make it. It's there's no pressure. I don't even really promote it that much. But it gets people listen to it, and it's just like a quick bite. If you're in between
No, I
something.
love it. I love it. One more question on that. Do you think of what happened that year before you look it up? Or like, do you think what happened was important to you that year? Like if it comes to you, or do you always have to look it up? Because I guess, what do you know about the early 1900s, right? No.
Yeah, no, right. It's usually, yeah. Well, usually what I'll do is it's the thing that's strange, and then I'll go back to the year because I've probably done 1972 a few times, so I don't necessarily need to represent any year. And frankly, the things that interest you the most are probably from like 1940 to like 2010. That those are, but I will go back and I've done some 1300s and I've done some 1800s, but I'm mainly like this like stick to things because there's just like a good amount of information, and sometimes there's a little bit of audio that I can add to it. Something from 1300, I don't have any. There's no news, reports on anything that happened then. So I tend to stick to the things that are a little more relevant, but I'm not like beholden to it.
Right. No, it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting. One more question. When you start a new podcast, do you start all new social media for it? You have to start a new Libsyn account or a new hosting account? You have to get all the socials. What do you do?
Yeah, it's you kind of like forget all the things you had to do to set things up when you've been doing a podcast for a while, and you have to kind of. But Ghost Town really started about 2.5 years ago, so it was a little bit fresh in my mind. And yeah, I set up some socials, but frankly, I think socials for promoting a show are like not very effective necessarily as compared to the amount of weight people put into it. But I think it's a great way to communicate with people that are listening. And yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And I moved platforms so many times, like probably 3 or 4 times. I don't know why. And I ended up it was actually hurt me because every time you're kind of switching that RSS feed, I think you're losing some of the people that are subscribed. So I kind of really hurt myself, but I found a place that it was just easy for me to manage. And I just kind of let whatever happens. I don't really like fret over it all that much. It's kind of like a little bit of like a pet project, even though all podcasts are, but at least in my world. So yeah.
Oh, it's very interesting. It really is. I teach a podcast class a couple of times a year, and my students would love to hear from you, I'm sure, because they're all taking it all so seriously, and I tell them, look, just it can't matter that much right off the bat. I mean, at some point it can matter more, but especially in the beginning, you just have to get them out in quantity, even to know what you're doing, because you're probably going to want to throw away the first 10 anyway.
Yeah, and you don't know what it is until it's out, like, and it's in the way that it's supposed to be, and then you can hear what's right and wrong with it. And that's, I've thought about, privating like early episodes of Ghost Town because they're really not as representative as they are now, but people still listen to a lot of the early ones, unfortunately. And I'm kind of afraid to like cut that out of the equation. So I kind of just take my hits on the Apple podcast reviews when they like, this stinks. You talk too much because, in the,
Oh, I hate
yeah,
that. I get that.
we used to have like banter in the beginning, and now we moved to the middle, but people still listen to the old episodes that are like a lot shorter. And, we were just still figuring things out, and they don't get to the newer by the last year and a half episodes, and they don't realize that it's a completely changed format. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Anyway, Jason, I am really impressed with all you do and the way your mind works. The way you're able to start a project and then just leave it. It doesn't mean you don't care for it anymore, but maybe you've learned from it what you need to learn, and now you're moving on because it will be better.
Time is short.
Yeah.
Like you can't just sit there and dwell. And same with like podcast. I think people worry, like I'm sure you hear in your podcasts, like, how do I make money? Do I need a $10,000 microphone? Do I need to, copyright my name? And it's like, put the thing out first. You know what I mean? Like, do the thing, then worry about that stuff later.
Yes. I always say to my students, I say, just pick up your iPhone and just start talking. Can you talk uninterrupted for 10 minutes? Just start talking. Pretend you have a show today and do your first episode right now into your iPhone and just see what it sounds like. See if you can do that. See if you can do it 5 times. Different episodes, as it were, even if you're pretending that you have a guest or whatever, do that 5 times and see if you really like it, but there's no way money's coming quickly. It just takes a lot of time.
I mean, we both have Ferraris. But that's another level.
That's a whole different thing. Anyway, I'm so glad you're here today to talk about haunted Los Angeles. All right, you guys, I want to introduce Jason to you guys properly. He is a writer and a comedian. He's been seen on Comedy Central, True TV, in the film The Thinning, New World Order. And like we were talking about, he's been seen over 1 billion times on YouTube. He also hosts many podcasts like we were talking about, Ghost Town, which has been successful for many years. And also we were talking about Strange Year. It's really interesting, you guys. Check out Strange Year. And Jason also has a book that he released last year called Abandoned and Historic Los Angeles, Neon and Beyond. You guys have got to check it out. It was featured in Los Angeles Magazine, on LA List, and on NPR. And the best place to find Jason is at ghosttownpod.com. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Jason Horton.
Los Angeles is such a amazing place, but it has such a dark history and can have such a dark energy. Like we were talking about, just the inherent despair and a lot of rejection. A lot of people come here and they bare their souls and they get crushed. And I feel like a lot of that, when it happens over the years in a relatively short amount of time, you can't help but find some crime and some haunts and some inherent darkness. It's really hard to avoid those things. And probably one of the most famous true crimes in the world, especially unsolved, is the Black Dahlia murders, the Elizabeth Short murders. But my favorite true crime that I believe has a lot of haunts to it is the Los Feliz murder house. And that's probably one of my favorite LA stories because there's so many levels. It's in Los Feliz, which, if you're familiar with Southern California, and Christine, I know you're familiar with Los Feliz in general. It is, you don't think nothing bad happens in Los Feliz. I say Los Feliz. If people are here saying it's Los Feliz, I'm saying Los Feliz. I don't want to argue about it because I do. People argue about that. But you never think like what really bad happens here. But in 1959, a doctor murdered his wife and tried to murder his daughter and other kids, and then the daughter escaped, and the father ended up killing himself. I'm really kind of speeding through this, pretty sad, like a pretty kind of famous thing that happened. But what made it really strange is that for, I'd say, about 50 plus years, the house remained relatively untouched. You could still see a Christmas tree. You could see unwrapped Christmas gifts. Things that just have not been moved or touched, and it's changed hands a bunch of times. but nobody has actually ever moved into it up until recently, where I actually went to go check it out for, the fourth time, because I was doing an episode of Ghost Town on it, and I was doing a YouTube video on it. And I never knew it to be haunted at all. I knew it to be a pretty interesting story of I love abandoned. So it was like kind of this weird abandoned thing. So there's two levels. So I went there relatively recently, 11 in the morning. I wasn't going there to like get creeped out. I was like, just want to take some pictures, take some video for this a YouTube video I did to compliment the episode of Ghost Town.
It is a very specific house. It's a really large house. It's, like in Los Feliz, at the very top of the hill, you have huge mansions. And then as you go down the hill, you get into where the apartments are. That's where I am. And then as you move further south, it gets, worse. And then maybe picks up and gets better again. But this house on Glendower, right? Glendower?
Yes.
This house is at the top of the hill. This is like a stunning, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's stucco, right? It's white.
Yeah, the facade is still the same. The inside is right now has been gutted since. But yeah, it's like this kind of it's not mid-century. I don't know what you call it, but it is kind of like this almost stucco, like almost mesa-ish looking. But it is, like you said, it is the top of the hill, and you maybe think like, what bad could happen all the way up there? But I mean, sometimes up at the top is where the bad stuff happens. And when you've made it that all the way up there, the pressure's on. But so I went up there, and it's very narrow when you're up in the Hollywood Hills, which I hate when I've ever gone there for something, and I'm like, I hate, there's nowhere to park. It's inherently kind of dangerous because the streets are so narrow. But
yeah, but at least people go slow.
Yeah,
and I always think that there's not going to be a lot of crime up there because they can't really get away. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, and there's a lot of big houses, but there's less compared to the stacked apartments together. So yeah, you're right. It's like, well, who's going to think anything is going to happen up there? But in 1959 it did. So I was there. It was like 10, 11 in the morning, very chill. I went there to take some video, and I kind of parked the car, and I was like, I don't want to be intrusive. There's no one living there now, but I was like, I just don't want to be intrusive in general. So I kind of just go to roll my window down to take some pictures, my left window, and the window does not go down. This is the first and last time this has ever happened in this car. It's something where I was like, and I just assumed I had locked it by accident. Nope. This window other windows would go down, but the window to film the house would not go down. I was like, that's weird. And I was just annoyed. I was like, oh, so annoying. Let me get out of the car, get my phone out. My camera and my phone will not work, which almost never happens. Occasionally, sometimes you have to refresh it. But I was doing all the iPhone tricks, and I was like, it will not film. And then eventually it started filming. I'm filming the house, taking some pictures, doing a quick filming of what it looks like now, just for reference. Nothing to do with haunts. And I'm like, and I kind of have like a creepy feeling because it is a little bit, tiny bit overcast, but it's a Tuesday at 11 a.m. It's not like the witching hour on, Friday night or anything. And the maintenance worker comes out, and he looks at me, and he points to the house, and then he shows his arm, and like the hairs on his arm kind of standing up, and he goes, brrr, like, and I was just like, what is happening? Wow. I was like kind of getting a little bit freaked out. So I'm like, let me just get this video and get out of here. And I swear, and on my YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/Jason Horton, the video is there, and I zoom in on it. And I'm not the first person. I found out I'm not the only person to see this, but I saw somebody that looked like legs in the doorway. And again, this was not a haunted thing. I'm a skeptic by nature. I've rented out Janis Joplin's hotel room where she's died, which is another great place in Los Angeles.
You rented it out?
Rented it out. Yeah, did a 3-episode thing for Ghost Town.
Oh, wow.
And had a medium come. Yeah.
Can anybody do that? Can anybody rent that bungalow?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just in the hotel.
Yeah, there's a closet that's like a mural to her. So anyone who stayed there, they write, I love you, Janis, pictures and stuff like that. It's like pretty cool. I'm a huge Janis Joplin fan.
Wow. What hotel is that? Now I need to know that.
It is I don't know Highland Gardens. It's right next to on Franklin, the Magic Castle.
Yeah.
And you go up a little bit. It's right there.
Interesting. Wow. So back to the murder house. You're in Los Feliz. You're taking video. The gardener or the maintenance guy, he is like kind of indicating that is a scary house.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Then so I'm looking and I'm kind of just let me get this video and get out of here, because I'm freaked out, but I'm not like looking for ghosts. That's not my interest or my jam. And then I was like, I see somebody in that window, and I was like, no, you don't. You're just letting your mind wander. So I kind of look away and I zoom in, and I'm like, I have it in the video. There's like, it looks like what looks like two legs.
Wow.
And I'm not the only, because other people I've looked, I was like, no one else really talks about this place as being haunted, but other people like, I saw somebody in that window.
Wow.
So, and there's nobody, it's all kind of quarantine, kind of quartered off. There's barbed wire and stuff. So it's not like it's a thing where it's like open where you can just, because you could be able to go and look in the window like years ago. Now you cannot do that.
And there's no there's no landscape. Like everything's just dirt. Like
everything's just dirt. Yep. Yeah. They've kept the outside, but they pretty much gutted the inside. So there's nobody there.
Yeah.
This maintenance guy, he was there, but he wasn't inside, and no one else was inside. Everything was locked shut.
Right.
So I don't know if he was doing something somewhere else, just as his car was parked there. And I was like freaked out, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting out of here. So I get in my car, turn around, which is not easy on those streets.
Because you have to it's more than a 3-point turn. It's like a 7-point.
It's a 90-point turn.
Yeah.
I'm driving and I'm leaving, and I'm like, wow, that was weird. I go to the bottom of the hill where Los Feliz meets Vermont, maybe? Yeah. I'm trying to think. And as soon as I hit that point, my window just goes, brrr. As soon as I hit that point.
Get the hell out.
I was so freaked out. And what's interesting is in that story, what kind of led to the unraveling of the doctor, Perelson, I think his name was, to start getting under a lot of pressure financially, is because his daughter got in a car accident in his car or her car at that corner, which was not her fault, but I think for some reason, they lost money because of the car, and maybe only medical damages were paid, but that the stress of the cost of that was compounded with the other things that kind of led him to kind of lose his mind a little bit. So
a little bit. Didn't he bludgeon his wife with like a ball peen hammer?
Yes.
Which is a tiny hammer, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tiny, strong hammer. You have to do a lot of work. And he went to go attack his daughter and missed, and it woke her up. And he's like, relax, it's only a bad dream. And she just starts screaming and runs out of the house, and then to call for help. And then he ends up just killing himself.
How did he kill himself?
I think he had I forget what the pills are, but he overdosed on pills.
Really?
He's a doctor, so he had, probably.
But he bludgeons his wife with a ball peen hammer, then goes to bludgeon his. How many children?
I think there's a total of 3. His oldest daughter, and then there was another daughter and son, if I'm remembering correctly.
Were they able to get out too?
Because I think what happened is when she woke up and started screaming, I think either he was like, well, I don't know if he intended on killing himself after, or if he was going to kill all of them. I'm speculating if he was going to kill all of them and say, hey, listen, somebody broke in. I don't know what happened. But once she got up and started screaming, he's like, well, that's over. So maybe was just like, I need to get out of this situation immediately. It's a, cowardly thing to do. But, who's to say what was going on?
I wonder whatever happened to those children, because, if they were 10 at that time, now they're, in their 60s or 70s.
I've looked. I've not. There's some, you find some letters between the aunt and the oldest daughter about how the breakdown was happening, especially financially, and them not getting along. So it was, kind of a long time coming, but I don't think anyone obviously knew it was going to be this. But I've looked, and I think those are maybe people that just don't want to remember something that horrific, and then have people like me, or whoever else kind of. I'm not very invasive, but people poking around and stuff like that, so it's understandable.
What's also interesting is that house, the murder house, is only about a half mile from the La Bianca murders in Los Feliz, and that's on right here near me, like 2 blocks from me. Honestly,
yep, I was there recently as well. Nothing freaky happened there. There was no freaky haunt there. But it is another one of those kind of mansions. The
Waverly, on Waverly. Yep. It's just a beautiful, beautiful street, really. But again, one of those places you'd never see what the horror was. You'd never see it coming, obviously.
No, and that house is pretty set a little back, a little further. Maybe they're about the same, but they look like mansions. Yeah.
and people live there.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
regular
people
house.
live there as well, yeah.
But then when we think about it, like what house would it ever be natural for there to be murders, you know?
The Hotel Cecil in downtown, which is probably a greatest hits of crime, haunts, strange, despair. Yeah, that's like probably the greatest hits, if I'm going to call it that.
And why? What happened at the Cecil? And it's still
Yeah, I
there,
think now
isn't it?
it might be stay on Main, but I think they've kept some of the Hotel Cecil, and I have some pictures in my book of the exterior. I've only been in the lobby because it's been under renovation for so long. Richard Ramirez stayed there, the serial killer. The story of Elisa Lam. If you've ever seen the footage of the girl in the you see her in the elevators, kind of looking around, and then she was found naked in the water tanks. You remember that? Yes. So that's another thing that's an LA, like a big LA kind of mystery story, and that was the Hotel Cecil.
So the criminal threw her in the water tank of the hotel.
Nobody knows.
How would that happen?
Officially, I think she climbed in there herself, and I don't know. She lifted up this, large thing and then closed it over herself. You know what I mean? Her phone has not been found.
So she committed suicide.
But
I see.
It didn't seem like a one person job, but really, who knows? But when you look at and there's also, if you go to, we did an episode on Ghost Town, and there's a YouTube video, but that I did on my YouTube channel. But yeah, seeing her kind of like be in the elevator, kind of looking around, it's really chilling, and it's probably what makes the kind of the case so famous.
And you get into all of this true crime and all of these hauntings, and I'm seeing you here on this platform, Squadcast, and you live obviously in beautiful, bright Southern California. When you start looking into this stuff, do you like close the blinds and like try to get dark?
No, because I'm not like somebody who chases scary things. I'm actually a pretty skittish person when like watching horror movies and such. So it's not difficult to freak myself out, but sometimes I will be doing research and it'll be at night and I'll be like listening to audio, like, and I'll really honestly kind of freak myself out a little bit. Not intentionally. I'm not looking to freak myself out, but sometimes some of this stuff just hits me. It's not necessarily the things that are like the most brutal, because I feel like that's just so defined. It's these weird, strange, unsolved things, and I'm like listening to this thing and I'm looking at these like the last messages and where is this person. That's the stuff that really freaks me out, because you don't know what happened. I think when you know what happened, it takes a little bit of the fear out because you have all the information. When you don't have all the information is what really kind of trips me up.
So to you, what is the craziest unsolved mystery to date?
Well, the Elisa Lam is a pretty wild thing, because it's here and it's local. The Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia murder, because there's again huge LA story, and not that long ago. We're not.
That was
the
50s as well, right?
40s.
And that the Black Dahlia was also unsolved.
It technically is unsolved. People, do you know the student house, that house on Los Feliz? It looks like it's a Lloyd Wright house. Mm-hmm. And I think you probably have seen it or whatever. Supposedly, maybe the guy who lived there did it. This doctor, I forget what his name was. Yeah, so it's just these really kind of really strange stories. But the Elisa Lam one is really freaky. And there's this one about this guy Lars Mittank that just ran out of an airport, jumped over a fence and was never seen. Left all his luggage there, and was never seen again. It's awesome. That might have been in Austria or Germany. There's just these things of people just everything's fine, and when you see them on camera, and then they're gone, and you don't know why, and you never see or hear from them again.
Yeah, there's a story of like these two guys hijacking a 727, they went to the airport, they climbed over the fences, they got in the plane, they fucking took off and never seen again. And you don't know.
DB Cooper, the story of DB Cooper, who hijacked robbed the plane, jumped out, and nobody's ever seen if he lived or didn't live, and who he is and who he was. It's just these things that are so they just kind of gnaw at you a little bit, which I think is what makes them so great. And I don't need some, knowing doesn't make it. It's like I almost don't want to know, because then it takes all the wind out of that sail of it being a mystery. So it's just kind of torn.
Well, I appreciate that you do the research, Jason, because I want to know these things in little bites, but I don't want to look into it like heavy. So thank you for doing the hard work.
Yeah. Listen, anyone listening, thank you.
You do the heavy mystery looking or whatever, and you do the heavy lifting, and I'll just listen to the show. And you guys should too. You guys check out Jason Horton, especially over at YouTube. You've got so much content. It's just youtube.com/Jason Horton. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
And you can also find Jason on Twitter at Jason_Horton. And of course, follow me over there as well at Storyworthy. All right, you guys, this has been so much fun. Make sure you look for Jason's new book, Abandoned and Historic Los Angeles, Neon and Beyond. That was published by Arcadia, right?
Yes.
Good on you, man. Congratulations. That was great.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of Jason Horton. My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
You made it. Here. Finally. Checked out of office to check into the sweet views of that place you've always wanted to go. You know the one. It's nice. Even the kids like it.
This place is so cool.
And they never like it.
Mom, can we go to the pool?
Look at that. Not even asking for the Wi-Fi. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Caregivers, are you and the person you care for not satisfied with your current home care agency? Then you need to call Help at Home, as we offer the highest paid wages, weekly pay, overtime pay, benefits, and do not forget paid time off. Help at Home is actively recruiting caregivers who are caring for a loved one. We make changing agencies quick and easy. Call one of our care professionals now at 412-784-6711. That's 412-784-6711, or go to helpathomepA.com.
With Kroger brand products from Baker's, you can make all your favorite things this holiday season. Because Kroger brand's proven quality products come at exceptionally low prices. And with a money-back quality guarantee, every dish is sure to be a favorite.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Whether you shop delivery, pickup, or in-store, Kroger brand has all your favorite things. Baker's, fresh for everyone.